What is up, everybody? Welcome back to a special episode, a different episode than what we've done before. Sitting here with me, I have my co-host Emilio, literally to my right, and I'm Hagen, your other host. So we're excited to be here. We are going to recap the Indiana and Oregon game that went on. It is Saturday afternoon, so we are literally first time we've done this, sitting right next to each other, actually, and girls went out to get their nails done. So we said, hey, what better thing to do than to talk about the football game last night and have a nice little beer? So we're going to do that. We got a special guest, Miles, here with us as well. And yeah, we're going to get through it. Emilio, what do you think?
Oregon got whipped like the family pig.
Yep, they definitely did get whipped. We saw Indiana go in and just dominate 56-22. They've just carried their momentum that they've had all postseason and really regular season, and just did it. Fernando Mendoza threw 5 scoring touchdowns, and then Blalock scored another 2 on the ground. Oregon had 3 first half turnovers that really turned the favor in them. Obviously, the first pick 6 from the very first play of the game. And then they went in and fumbled the ball inside the 10-yard line, put the ball on the ground again one more time, and that really led to what we saw there. Indiana is going to try to become the 3rd Big Ten team in a row to win the national championship. You had Ohio State do it last year and then Michigan the year before. So Big Ten's going to try to continue their streak of dominance in national championship wins, but that's going to be a really big game. But man, last night this was just an ass whooping that nobody saw coming here. If like we talked about, Fernando Mendoza was almost perfect. This was about as perfect of his game as you could have drawn up for a football team, and that's really what Indiana's been here. Kirk Cignetti, I think, said it pretty good that it's going to be one hell of a movie, right, when it eventually comes out. So it'll be fun. Fernando Mendoza was 17-20 for 177 yards, 5 touchdowns, no interceptions. They ran the ball 40 times for 185 yards. And that's even including the negative -1 yard that they got for kneeling the ball down there at the end of the football game. So like we talked about, Black, I said Blaylock a second ago, I apologize. Black, he had 12 carries, 63 yards, 2 touchdowns. They know how to, really get those guard tackle pulls going. Their offensive line plays really hard through it. They don't just stop and double team on easy things. They really get around, get to the next level. If they're not at the second level, they're going to get to the third level. Elijah Sarrett had a really big day, 7 catches, 75 yards, 2 touchdowns as well. He's really looking like that number 1 receiver that every team needs. He's got that number 13 on his uniform. He looks like a Mike Evans almost. They said it last night on the McAfee thing. What do you think about Indiana?
I haven't been a strong believer in Indiana all year long, and at this point, there's one game left, and now I'm a believer. I mean, I've seen enough. They beat the brakes off of Oregon in a way that, I thought could happen. I didn't think it would happen. I thought Oregon would make adjustments from that first one. I expected a close game. I wasn't totally confident in my pick for Oregon to win, but I definitely thought that they would at least be a little bit of a competition for them, and especially coming off of that Tech game. And for me, that just tells me that Tech might have been real ass, not just kind of ass. So
yeah, I tell you, I've lost a lot of sympathy for these Tech fans. I don't want to do that because I've liked Tech all year, and obviously my father-in-law's a Tech alumni and got some friends that were Tech alumni too, and I don't want to be that way, but the batch online has really ruined that for me. But anyways,
yeah, I saw this thing online too that said if Oregon could have won the game if they didn't have the 3 fumbles and the blocked punt and the missed field goal. And I'm thinking,
yeah,
and if my aunt had stones, she'd be my uncle. So.
Exactly.
I don't know what we're talking about.
No.
It was a thorough domination, And then just looking ahead, which it's hard not to, but initially you have two teams that are pretty much playing the same style of football. And the biggest difference for me initially is Indiana is a very disciplined football team.
Yep.
And Miami is one of the most undisciplined football teams and have been all year long. And Kurt ain't going to let that shit slide. So I got a lot of faith in Indiana now. They're just, they dominate on defense, and I didn't believe in it. And the way they locked up Oregon, it made me a full believer.
Yeah, yeah, and that's the talk. Is it's now it's like, okay, hey, Indiana's had back-to-back whippings of people. I mean, they've done it to two very good programs over the past 20 years of college football, right? And it's not like, hey, when are we going to see a slip up from Indiana? You know, what's going to happen? Folks don't believe in Indiana. That and it's not just, you know, you picking against them. There's multiple people out there that were waiting for it to happen. Nobody thought that this game was going to be a 34-point difference, right? Nobody thought it was going to be that. And if you say you did, you're probably full of shit, to be honest with you. But nobody saw that. So now it's really like, hey, Indiana's here. They're for real. They do all the little things perfect. Even last night, Fernando Mendoza was talking about the first game that they had, and he said, we had 5 or 6 pre-snap penalties. And before he even could finish anything, Signetti was like 7. He had 7. So, I mean, he humbled them all the time. He knows, and he stays on top of it. And he wants to make sure all the small details are done perfectly. And that's really what happens when you want a successful organization and program that can do these things, and how you have such a quick turnaround from becoming the losingest program in college football history to being one game away from a national championship, right? That's a huge deal. On the other side of this thing, I think about this, and I think you're going to hear a lot of this, especially going into the offseason once the national championship gets done and everybody starts turning the page towards next year, is where does Oregon go from here? They've always had big recruits. They're always talked about. They're going to be in the Big Ten running at least, year in to year out and things. But where do they go? This is another game for Dan Lanning where he's in a big moment and his team doesn't show up. They didn't have their top 2 running backs, so that messed up some timing there. But you can't say, hey, we're down 2 players and then we're going to lay a complete goose egg like this, right? What is this Oregon team going to come to? Dante Moore played decent last night. He had a ton of turnovers, right? The pick 6 to go off. He fumbled the ball twice at least. One of them, it was the mishap with his running back where it ran into his arm. He was trying to throw a screen out. But that comes down to your coaching and how disciplined you can do, right? How ready can you get your guys for this football game? So there's going to be a lot of questions with Lanning going forward, I think. And I think I question the program as a whole is, when can this Oregon team get over the hump? That's always been the thing. They've only been to, one national championship? And they lost to Cam Newton that year. So, I guess, did they make another one? Ohio State? Was that a national championship game? So they've been to 2. But they got – the Cam Newton one they didn't get whipped, but the other one they got whipped, I think, right? But Dante Moore did okay. 24 of 39, 285 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, very crucial interception. They ran the ball as a team 26 times for 93 yards. They had negative 28 yards from Dante Moore, which were sacks. A lot of them were sacks. He did have some positive runs, but he was sacked so many times that he had a negative stat line there. And Jeremiah Johnson had a decent game for him, 4 catches, 83 yards, and a touchdown. They lost. They fumbled the ball 3 times, lost 2 of them, and it was just hard to really get up. On that Indiana side, how many sacks did they exactly have here, just so we're accurate? They only had 3 sacks, but it felt like he was under pressure consistently all night. Yeah. So it was just tough. What do you think Oregon does going forward? I mean,
it's the same thing that I feel like it's been the stereotype of Oregon, and it's that they have all the money in the world, they have the coolest uniforms, but when it comes down to playing teams that are physical and big up front, they cannot compete.
Yep.
And it's not even like a question.
Mm-hmm.
Even when Mario Cristobal got there, he tried to start recruiting deeper guys and bigger guys and try to mold them into an SEC team. And for whatever reason, I don't know if it's just the landscape or what it is, but I guess the bigger guys come from a certain area of the United States. Your offensive, your trenches, your
Yeah.
trench play comes
Yeah.
from a certain area of the United States, and those kids don't want to go to Oregon for whatever reason.
Yep.
They don't care about the money. They don't. I mean, I guess they do care about the money, but not enough to go to Oregon over a school like Indiana. I mean, even I don't know. It's crazy. They don't get the right type of players to compete at the big level.
Yeah.
And as good as Oregon's had on offense, you think about some of those high flying offenses, Dennis Dixon, the Anthony Thomas years, the Jonathan Stewart years. I mean, they've had offenses that could put up numbers, and then they get up against a bigger, more physical team, and all of a sudden that goes away and it crumbles. And then defensively, I thought that this Dan Lanning group was going to be a lot better
Mm-hmm.
because of what they did to Texas Tech, and they come out and get the doors blown off them. So,
Yep.
turned out to be a facade. I don't know where they go from here. I don't know if it's at this point for me. It's not coaching. I mean, I thought that when it was Chip Kelly and all they could do was try to outscore people and played no defense. And then you had Mario Cristobal that tried to slow the game down a little bit, but still score a lot, and that didn't necessarily work either. And then Dan Lanning is a defensive guy, and it's still not there. So at this point, I don't know. Maybe you do have to look at coaching, but at some point, I think Oregon's just got to come to grips with the fact that they're going to be a competitive team up until it really, really matters, and they might never actually hit the pinnacle of it.
We talk about the money in aspects, and that really is what got my wheels going as you were talking about this. And then the last thing you said there is that they're just going to have to come to grips with the type of program they are. And it just comes back to Indiana, right? That's the thing that's got everybody mind boggled as far as like, okay, Kirk Cignetti, yeah, he's been on some really competitive staffs. Like he was a coordinator for Alabama at one point, right? And he bounced around in his first real gig. He was a D2 coach, right? Or was it D3? Yeah. And he's gone from there. And how can a school like Indiana flip the page so easy, right? You got to find that guy. Like, right. Obviously, you got to find that guy and go. And then I think too is like money wise, like how much I don't really know how much money Indiana's spending on their football team, and it's not they're not towards the top. I can tell you that. I've seen the top of the top 25 list, and they're not in that. I don't believe that I remember. But what are they going to spend going forward with some of these recruits? Because the interesting thing I heard, they just last night, I think it was, and the day before, is that Indiana has the biggest base of alumni in all of the college, really? Within the United States. Huh. They have the biggest alumni base in all of them. Hell, I didn't even know Mark Cuban was an Indiana alumni.
Well, I didn't either.
Yeah, he was there last night. They were talking about it. Did you watch the McAfee one or
I watched the standard?
You watched the standard one. So he was there. Matt. They were showing that. I mean, he was a man. Hey, Miles. He was there. Doing that kind of stuff, and I mean, you just see who else has gone to Indiana and how much money do they really have to spend, and that's what's really dangerous. If Kirk can continue going, he's a young and healthy guy a young enough and healthy guy, right? You got called really an ageist about the comments that you said about him being 66 years old. So he had a lot of people out after us for that. But if he can keep this going for 5, 6, 7, I mean, who knows what can happen, right? I mean, really, and if they get that money, the backing, you've seen it happen. I mean, take the easiest example for us is Texas A&M, right? You have one really good season, and then it turns into a whole brand new stadium. You get whole brand new football facilities. You got a lot of people coming back. You've got a lot of new individuals that never supported that program to begin with, right? They were all Longhorn fans or whatever it was. When you talk about Walmart T-shirt fans and things of that nature. Like how does that whole state of Indiana, obviously they already like the Hoosiers for the basketball because they have a very successful basketball program, but now you're turning to football and you're going to have packed out home games and you're going to continue to do this thing. And you look how well that fan base traveled to Georgia. We hadn't even talked about that. That was like a 90-10 split with that. I mean, that first pick six, you're like, are we playing in Georgia? Where the hell are we? I mean, it just went nuts.
Yeah, that whole walkout sounded like a home game and I thought it was just they were pumping crowd noise or something, but that was a wild environment and it really didn't settle in. I was still like, oh, this is just they got the mics real close to the crowd.
Yeah,
and then that pick six happened. And I was like,
no,
these boys traveled.
Yeah,
and they traveled well.
Yeah,
and I think that's the other thing. Whenever you look at Oregon and where they go, is clearly the transfer portal, if you do it correctly, can get you into a position to win a national championship. And the college or the high school recruits, they don't necessarily mean as much. They do in the sense that, if you're like Miami and you get Malachi Tony, that's a fresh out of high school recruit that's going to help put your team in position. But needing to get the 5 stars right out of the gate and build this roster and try to keep these guys is not important anymore. Now it's being selective and knowing which guys can fit your system, and if your system's good enough, you can go out and do whatever. 100%.
Because they have no 5 stars, and then they have four 4-star recruits, I think it is.
Yeah,
that's it. So that's what you're getting as far as just like a really, high performing program there. It's really interesting, right? How this development of going after these D2 junior college guys, and it's not like that hasn't been happening forever. You've always had transfers from D2 to D1. It's easier now than it's ever been here recently, just because you don't have to sit out a year and all that kind of stuff. And then the money that you can go. It's just the developmental thing as far as college football. We talked about it with the changing landscape too, as far as, college football as a whole. At some point, you're probably going to go to a salary cap. You're going to have a commissioner to regulate all this stuff. It's going to turn into a, just that true pipeline and a semi-pro league. I guess I'm lacking a better term there for that, but yeah, it's going to be interesting, and teams are going to have to really look differently. And these general managers of these programs are going to have a lot on their plate, and really no excuses. Really no excuses for what's going on. So we got Miles here in the background as a third host. So if you hear a little bit there, it'll be all right. Well, he's got some opinions as well, but
yeah, it's pretty wild, and I know we've mentioned it before, but you're going to have a lot of schools trying to follow what Kirk Cignetti's done with this transfer portal business, and you're going to see a lot of them crash and burn the hard way.
Oh yeah.
It can't be that easy to just go and get a bunch of 3-star guys that just like to play football and just make it work right off the bat. Thank you, Miles. That takes a lot of work, and I don't know that a lot of these guys that are going to try this same thing, because it's, that's the first thing. It's a copycat league. Everybody's going to go and try to do the exact same thing. And I don't know that a lot of these schools are going to have a whole lot of success doing that. So that'll be interesting too, is seeing how many people try to model this Kirk Cignetti plan. In 2 years, you're in a national championship. And I think a lot of these folks are going to wind up in the same spot that they're in.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. But it's going to be interesting going forward, seeing, what these programs do, especially Indiana. How long of a leash does Dan Lanning get? We talk about that, what he can do too, but who else are you going to go get who's better than Lanning as well? That's a question these programs really need to ask, is like, how much better is really out there? Yeah, at some point somebody probably will, but right now, if you really look around the landscape and what you can get, I don't know. Can other people successfully get a bunch of 3-stars and misfits and make it happen? Probably not. You're still going to see a lot of folks, Tech is an easy one to pick out. Go spend $5 million on a quarterback who's proven to do it. Brennan Sorsby, get that done. There's going to be a lot of people spending money on other folks' stuff. Yeah.
Now that you mentioned that, it just clicked in my head is Tech is probably one of the first programs to try the transfer portal shenanigans and spend a whole bunch of money buying guys.
Yep.
And they spent money on the expensive transfer portal guys, the 5 stars, the 4 stars. and it got you the doors blown off by Oregon in the
Yeah.
second round.
Tech's going to get there. I hate to do all the slander on Tech, and it is because I'm a little butthurt from what
think they're going to get there?
I think they're going to get there at some point. I think at some point Tech figures it out. It's hard. You have to turn the page and figure it out because even going into the game when I was watching the Orange Bowl between Tech and Oregon, it was just like this is a game that Tech is gonna lose. It's bound to lose. It just feels that way, right? I mean, honestly, it felt that way with A&M playing Miami in the first round. It was like this is just a game that A&M loses. Like it's just the way it is, and you have to have the leaders of those teams. And I think both organizations, if you look at Tech and A&M specifically, because we pointed them out, have the right guys at the helm to turn the page and turn the mentality of those programs into, hey, we can win these games now, and yeah, I think they will get it. Now, am I saying Tech's going to win a national championship next year? No, I'm not saying that. They're going to have an opportunity, right? But I don't think that they go, one round into the playoffs and then lose automatically again, or at least get shut out completely, right? Depends who they're playing and what, a lot of that seeding. And then you get into, okay, hey, it really looks right now like we're going to get 16 teams next year.
Yeah.
Like the more that things are talked about, they have until I think it's later this week to get this figured out. But the more it's talked about and the more they see, I think this revenue stuff coming in, I think we're going to get 16 teams. I really think it's going to happen here this next year just because they can get, more of these guys in. So, just seeing what Miami was able to do, obviously go to the national championship, and then I think you look at the committee and the television stations and stuff, and say, hey, what if we had Notre Dame in here and all that kind of stuff, right? Those programs. So yeah, I think it'll be saying it doesn't matter really. At some point, it doesn't matter because if you have 12 teams, 16 teams, there's going to be teams that rise as the cream of the crop. Indiana, for example, that are going to make it happen, and they're going to be better than everybody else. And maybe that team has to play an extra game, maybe they don't, depending on how the seeding goes and how they lay it all out. But it's going to happen.
Yeah.
So whether we want it to or not. So yeah.
Yeah, I think the other thing too is that clearly the seeding doesn't necessarily matter because Miami got hot at the right time, and now they look like one of the two best teams. They legitimately look like one of the two best teams all along, and defense is unbelievable. Offense does enough. So that matchup is going to be really interesting. I think
I'm excited for that one. It is. It's wild to think that Miami was. What point in the conversation did they truly say, hey, you know what, we're going to value this head to head and put them over Notre Dame? I mean, how that conversation, what if they took a vote and it was a 3-2 vote, or what? Yeah. I don't know. I can't remember how many exact members are in the committee, but, it was a split vote and it came down to one person and they said Miami. And here we are, woulda, coulda, shoulda kind of deal, right? Sucks to suck Notre Dame fans, but it is what it is. So I'm sorry, that Miami made A&M look like, fools. So that is what it is. I'm hurting too. So no, it's interesting. It's gonna be fun going forward. So, yeah. Anyways, yeah, that's it. We just wanted to come on here and talk about that. We got a little sidetracked, obviously, but that's the fun thing about doing this is, we're sitting here drinking Miller Lite and just talking about sports, and that's what we made this whole thing to do is just so we can talk and get things out. I want to make sure that you enjoy the rest of this weekend. It's a beautiful weekend here where we are. In Uvalde, America, it is a cold front blow through, but it's sunshiny, so get outside, enjoy some of that fresh air. There is playoff football still going on. We got NFL football. You've got 2 games today on Saturday. You got 3 on Sunday, 1 on Monday. We probably won't be back until Tuesday or so. Watch the games. We'll have this one out. Get the reaction out, whether people wanted it or they didn't want it. Seem to get some good replies from that. But anything else that we want to talk about before we end this one? It's a short and sweet.
No, I think I'm good.
I think it's good too. I don't think there's anything big, major news that we missed yesterday. Let me do one more check before.
Trinidad was denied his eligibility for 6 years. So
yes,
he's gonna have to move on.
Yeah, he is gonna have to move on. Man, he seems like he's gonna. I don't know, man. There's always college quarterbacks that you say, yeah, they can make it happen. But if he's got the right head on his head, or head on his shoulders to make something out of an NFL career. It seems like.
I think he'll take the Birmingham Stallions to at least 2 USFL championships.
Gosh dang. Yeah, he didn't deserve that. Man, he didn't deserve that. He can go.
Could you imagine him playing under AJ McCarron? I mean,
Oh my gosh, it's that's just not nice. I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say there. I figured he could do something. I mean,
he's gonna.
he's better than anything the Raiders put on the field this year.
I mean, don't get me wrong. He's gonna have a tough time, when he runs up against Diego Pavia. But there, I could see him leading the Stallions to a couple
This
back.
quarterback class this year, I mean, outside of Mendoza. Who else really? I mean, who's going out of the?
Ty Simpson declared. Dante Moore declared. Fernando declared. And outside of that, it's just a bunch of.
Yeah, I mean, Fernando Mendoza's a Raider.
It's just
Unless the Raiders trade that pick for some reason, he's a Raider.
Jeez, that's terrible.
I know but he's going to Las Vegas.
I think it depends on who the Raiders get as a head coach. It could work out, but they got a lot of work to do. He's in for a long.
Such a good, grounded, humble Christian young man, and he has to go to Sin City. That's probably not where he wants to be.
They're not doing the Lord's work.
No, they sure aren't. Not they sure are not. Definitely, at least on the Strip part. Maybe we're giving all of Las Vegas a bad name, but
that would be interesting.
Yeah.
It would be nice to see him because I don't think he's a day one. I wouldn't make him a day one guy, but
they're starting him day one.
If it would be better, I think, put him in a Patrick Mahomes situation where he gets at least a year to figure everything out, and then I think he could really take a NFL team somewhere.
They have no bridge quarterback. That's the problem. They have no bridge quarterback. Geno Smith, they're going to let him go. I don't think. Well, maybe he does have another year left on that deal. I think he signed a 2 or 3 year deal, so he may still be there. But even then, you're going to have players like Max Crosby and all these guys that the Raiders for life, unless they actually trade him. Like they've said maybe we will, or we're not going to. Now they've opened the window up apparently. What that really looks like, but they put Genty on a real pitch count, really hard pitch count this year. So they're trying to do it the right way, it seems like. But I don't think that you can deny, especially if you start losing multiple games. If you're a 2-14 team and you're not playing your number 1 overall draft pick, it just doesn't cut it anymore in the NFL. That's not the way it should be. They should let these guys develop, but sometimes they throw them into the fire and they just burn out too quick. But it's all about how they let them develop and stuff like that. But he seems like a smart enough guy that he could go in there and make it happen and not burn himself out, I guess. So
we'll see.
We'll see for sure. But anyways, that's it. Yeah, we're in, out, talked about it. We're gonna go enjoy the rest of our Saturdays, have a few more Teddy Brewskis and go on. So we appreciate you guys. We'll be back with another episode Wednesday morning, something like that. We're gonna let these other NFL playoff games go out. We will we'll probably kind of look around a little bit, talk about the college football playoff, the national championship. Probably won't give our predictions so much that day. I don't know. We'll have to talk about it. Then we'll talk about the NFL games that happen. There'll be some other college football news that is going on. A lot of these transfers are going to really pick up with commitments and stuff like that, since it's already opened and then more teams are out. You only got 2 teams that are there. So there's going to be a lot that's moving on there. We'll touch on that subject and we'll go from there.
Yep.
So anyways, that's it. We appreciate you guys tuning in. This has been a short episode, segment, whatever you want to call it. In-laws and out of bounds. Remember that Jesus loves you, and we appreciate y'all listening. We will let whoever knows wins the bracket as well. Monday the 19th, that night, you'll know. So anyways, appreciate you guys. Have a good weekend. Or when you hear this, it won't be the weekend, but have a great week. We'll talk to you soon. Peace.